Good Saturday morning, everyone. I'm 13 News Now meteorologist Rochelle here with your Saturday morning update on the Atlantic tropics for October 3rd, 2020. Here's in case you missed it. Tropical storm Gamma formed around 8 p.m. on Friday afternoon, Friday evening. There's also 3 other areas of tropical interest that we do need to keep an eye on, and Hurricane Marie goes major over in the eastern Pacific. Let's take a look at the tropics as a whole here. Of course, we have Tropical Storm Gamma. I just mentioned Hurricane Marie in the eastern Pacific. We have a pair of tropical waves, and then out in the middle of the ocean, we have this area of showers and storm just pegged by the National Hurricane Center with their 8 a.m. advisory. Speaking of 8 a.m. advisory, here's the one on Tropical Storm Gamma. Winds at 65 miles an hour, moving northwest at 9 miles an hour, 40 miles south-southeast of Tulum, Mexico, with that pressure at 987 millibars. So we went quite a while without seeing a tropical system in the Atlantic. The last one fizzled out on September 23rd, and then Tropical Depression 25, which would eventually become Tropical Storm Gamma that we're watching right now. That formed yesterday on October 2nd. So we went 9 days without a tropical system in the Atlantic. So things were quiet for a while, but now we're starting to see them. Looks like they might be heating up just a little bit. Here's a look at Gamma on tropical satellite. This is pretty good imagery. You can kind of see that counterclockwise rotation along with Gamma there. And then as we look at another view, this is the view we just looked at. This shows the tops of the clouds. So we're seeing those whites and even some of those pinks. That's indicating very, very tall thunderstorms, very well-developed thunderstorms in those whites and those pinks. So again, this is a look at Tropical Storm Gamma. When we take a look at the water vapor imagery, dry air a little bit farther off to the north and west of Gamma. So quite a bit of moist air for this storm to really hone in on. We're also going to be watching the sea surface temperatures around the Yucatan Peninsula. Check out these numbers, right around 88 degrees, and then a little bit farther off to the west in the Gulf of Mexico, we do have 85 degrees for some of those water temperatures. So perfect for tropical development and these tropical storms to sustain their strength, if not strengthen. So Tropical Storm Gamma, those winds at 65 miles an hour. I mentioned moving northwest at 9 miles an hour. We'll have to see how long this system interacts with land on the northern part of the Yucatan Peninsula, because that'll determine just exactly where the storm is going, what it's going to do, how strong it could get. So if it doesn't spend that much time over land and it moves back over these very warm waters where those temperatures of the waters are 88 degrees, that means we could be talking about more strengthening of this storm as it kind of lingers in the southern Gulf of Mexico. You do see potentially 50-mile-an-hour winds as we head into the day Tuesday and Wednesday, and still tropical during the day on Thursday. So again, going to be watching this storm for a few days. Another look at Gamma here. Let's head over to the Pacific. Let's talk about Marie. Check this out. Just absolutely concise, very tight looking storm, well-defined eye as we move through the past 12 hours, and it keeps that very well-defined eye through the last 12 hours overnight into this morning, and I'm sure it's going to keep it for a while longer as well. Sea surface temperatures with Marie, it's moving off to the north and west, similar to what Gamma is doing, but it's going to be moving into some cooler waters where you're seeing some of these oranges. That's actually water temperatures into the 70s versus 80s, so that is actually going to prompt some weakening for this storm. Right now, it is a powerhouse Category 4 hurricane, winds at 130 miles an hour, gusting to 160. Movement, again, very similar to what Gamma is doing. Northwest at 9 miles an hour. The pressure is down to 948 millibars. And when I'm talking about the pressure, as the pressure goes down, the storms strengthen because these are areas of low pressure. So the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. Thankfully, this is out in the middle of the Pacific, not going to be impacting anyone. You see Hawaii well out there, well off to the west. This system is going to be curving off to the north and west. And my numbers are a little bit jumbled here, but don't worry, I'll break it down for you. By Sunday morning, 105-mile-an-hour winds, down to a Cat 2 storm, down to a tropical storm by Monday at 2 a.m., 70-mile-an-hour winds. Tropical depression Wednesday morning, 35-mile-an-hour winds, and then eventually becoming a remnant low as we head into the later part of this week. So we're going to be talking about Marie for a few more days. Now, the Pacific hasn't gotten quite as far as the Atlantic has with their hurricane naming system. They've gotten to the M-name storm. Next would be Norbert, and then Odalis. I believe that's how you do pronounce that, but we still have quite a ways to go for the Pacific. Now, when we look at major hurricanes, Pacific versus Atlantic, the Pacific has seen 3 major hurricanes so far during the 2020 season versus the Atlantic, which has only seen Laura and Teddy. So just a little comparison there between the 2 basins. Looking at the tropical Atlantic, though, we have a few areas that we do need to be watching. This system toward the middle part of the Caribbean Sea, 20% chance within the next 2 days, and then 50% of some tropical development, whether it's becoming a tropical storm or a tropical depression within the next 5 days, 50% chance for this system right here. And that was actually just increased with that 8 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. Another update that just came in at 8 o'clock was this tropical wave, up to 20% for both the 2 and the 5-day outlooks as well. This system was also just pegged at 8 a.m. An area of storms just has a 10% chance for tropical development in the next 2 and the next 5-day outlooks as well. However, both of these last 2 systems that are farther out into the middle, they're going to have to be watched for the potential of some strong upper level winds kind of tearing them apart and messing with them. We're looking at wind shear right now. There's a little bit of wind shear as we look back off toward the Gulf of Mexico, so we'll have to see how that interacts with Gamma. Not too much going on in the Caribbean Sea for that one tropical wave, but the new system, that area of storms, you do see quite a swath of some wind shear, which is the change in wind direction or speed with height that we'll have to keep an eye on as we look toward that one area of storms. Right now, no wind shear, a little bit farther south than that, but wind shear does move and it changes its location and its intensity over the next couple of days. So of course, we'll continue to watch, continue to see what's going on, how things are changing and evolving in the Atlantic Basin. Again, right now, 4 areas pegged by the National Hurricane Center. Looking at the Greek alphabet names, we're not too familiar with this because we don't get into the Greek alphabet very often. We've only done it one time back in 2005. We have Alpha, Beta, and now we have Gamma currently swirling around the Yucatan. The next 3 names for the Atlantic Basin are going to be Delta, Epsilon, and Zeta. Now, once we get to Zeta, if we get to Zeta, that would tie the names for the list from 2005. They only got to Zeta back in 2005, and that was toward December, and I believe Zeta went into early January as well. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. However, when it comes to the 24th named storm in 2005, that didn't form until late part of October. Our 24th named storm for 2020 formed yesterday on October 2nd. So we'll have to see again just how deep into this Greek alphabet we'll get for the 2020 season. Now, when we talk about October, you think, okay, we're past that peak hurricane season. Not technically. We do still have some areas that we really need to watch for tropical systems to form and move. One of which is close to where Gamma is sitting right now, around the Yucatan right around this area here. So with systems that form in this area, where they would typically move is off to the north and off to the northeast as well. Another area that we keep an eye on typically during the month of October is right in the center of the Caribbean. Also sound familiar? Because we're watching a tropical wave there right now. With these systems, they would typically move off to the north and west and then possibly hook off to the north and east. Now, we haven't seen a landfall in Florida yet this season, so we'll have to keep an eye out over the next couple of months for these systems that are going to be developing and moving through the Atlantic Basin to see what happens with that. And then a third area that we would also keep an eye on is off the southeastern coast of the United States. Those systems would move off to the north. Right now, we have a lot of wind shear in place along the eastern coast of the United States, so we're not too concerned with that right now. But again, just something to keep in the back of our mind, something to think about as we move through the month of October. We're also thinking about, well, what storms formed during the months of October. Here are some of the notable hurricanes that formed during the 10th month of the year. Michael, Sandy, Wilma, Vince, and also Hazel. These all formed as tropical storms during the month of October, strengthening to hurricanes. And some of these systems, depending on where you live, where you're watching this from, you may have been unfortunately impacted by these storms. So hurricane season not over. We've had many notable storms either form or strike during the month of October. And when we're talking about the different months of the hurricane season, October is actually the 3rd most active behind September, which is number 1, and then August, which is number 2. So again, we're not done with hurricane season yet. We got a little bit of a break for about a week and a half, but things are starting to heat up a little bit more. Here's where you can find me on social media. I try to put out tropical updates as a whole once a day when I am on the clock. So here's where you can find me and check those out if you're interested. But definitely want you to subscribe to us here at 13 News Now for our tropical updates. We try to put these out at least once per day, if not twice per day, depending on how active things are out in the tropics. So we want to thank you for checking out this video and all of our videos. If you are a loyal viewer to us here at 13 News Now, thank you for trusting us with your tropical forecast and tropical information. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I'll see you for another update tomorrow.